Hey everyone, this is Jamie from MadLit Musings, and today super excited because I have one of my besties with me, Christen Krumm. Hi, Christen.
Hi.
We're doing the whole hi. Like I really hate that point in a podcast where you go on and you're supposed to like introduce people and it's that awkward hi, hi, and then I never sound like a normal human being.
No,
I
it's
just
always fun.
whatever. But Kristen, you and I go back for quite a few years. We've been working together on a lot of different
Yes.
projects.
Hmm.
Kristen, for all of you who do read my books, and this is not a plug for my books, it's just she is often one of the brains behind my stories. So if you all think that I'm smart, she's smarter. And so she's the one I go to when I'm like, Kristen, this isn't working. And she's like, here's what you do. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, we have good times.
We do.
I
We
love
do.
I love brainstorming your books.
They're fun. It's fun. It's fun to do that.
Yeah.
But you have a book. So let's talk about this. You have a book
Okay.
coming out.
Hmm.
Well, at the time that we're recording this podcast, it's coming out in 2 weeks. And it's
Yeah.
part of the Big Sky Amish novel collection from Sunrise Publishing. The one I'm holding up, if you are watching on YouTube, is Trisha Goyer's, which was the first one that released.
Hmm.
And yours is the next one in the series, although they are not connected, right? That you can read them in different orders.
Yeah. They're pretty much standalone.
Awkward pause on air. Everybody
Yes,
always thinks I'm
they're
going to edit those out too. And then when I go back to edit, I'm like, these are hilarious. I'm leaving the bloopers in. They're
Oh,
great.
that's great. Oh, that's great. Yes. No, they are standalone. Trisha has other books in the Big Sky series, and
Got it.
I can't remember the titles off the top of my head, but those you need to read in order. And then Beyond the Gray Mountains is kind of a continuation of that, her first three books.
Okay.
Um, but my book on the Golden Cliffs is a standalone. It just takes place in the same world.
Got it.
So some of her characters will pop up in mine.
Okay. So, and your book is called On the Golden Cliffs.
Yeah.
Correct. All right. Awesome. Awesome. And now, okay, so there's a couple things I need to point out here. First of all, when I first met you, I did not ever classify you as someone who would ever write Amish. So we need to talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit. Um,
Yeah, so I did say that I would never write Amish. I didn't even really read Amish before I wrote on the Golden Cliff. So, um, I work with Trisha. I've
mhm.
been her assistant for a little bit, and um, I guess it was 2021. She was like, "Oh, hey, I'm doing this thing. It's awesome. It's great. You should come up with a story and pitch." They're totally and completely blind auditions, so she would never, she'd never see me coming. And I was like, "No, I don't write Amish fiction. What are you talking about? Like, I write YA." At the time, I was really big into well, I still am really big into dystopia, and I like killing off my characters. Like, this is not no. And she's like, "No, you should." And I hemmed and hawed about it um, for weeks. And literally the day before the deadline to submit for a chance to like be mentored and have a book contract, I was like, okay, why not? Like, let's see what God's gonna do. I'm
Right.
gonna submit, and if this is what I'm supposed to do, a
Yeah.
little Russian roulette, maybe. I don't know. And so I submitted. It was like an hour before the deadline that I got everything submitted and turned in. And then not too long after that, Sunrise moves really, really quickly. Something as
Right.
somebody who is very impatient, I love how quickly Sunrise works. And so within a couple of weeks, they contacted me and let me know that I was like in the top 10. And then from there, another couple of weeks before
Okay.
they offered a contract.
Well, that's pretty cool. And so I think that's pretty funny that you an hour before the deadline. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
that's hilarious. I think that's
Mhm.
that's classic Kristen right there.
It
I
really
love it.
is.
It really is. But I will say this. Okay, so there is a place for Amish fiction in the world. My mother-in-law adores it. And I will be honest that when I was first married, one of my favorite things to do was go lay in the hammock on my back porch and read Amish. The only issue that I have with it is because I was reading in a hammock on my back porch, would fall asleep, right? And it had nothing to do with the content or the genre, but it started a habit that Amish equals lazy equals falling asleep for Jamie. And so I was like, I got your book. You sent it to me so I could read it and consider endorsing it. I'm like, I cannot fall asleep during this book. I didn't. I didn't. I did not fall
Yay!
asleep.
Yay!
I will say though, it's a different sort of Amish story because it's
Yeah.
not like the atypical Amish book. So tell us a little bit about the premise
Yeah.
and the story.
So On the Golden Cliffs is about a social media star who falls from grace and she ends up in Amish community in Montana, which it's the community that Trisha created.
Mhm.
And then while there, she meets an Amish man who has a secret of his own that could threaten his livelihood if it gets out. And of course, they fall in love
Mhm.
with lots of mishaps along the way. And I mean, it was fun. I had fun writing it. It's not your typical Amish read.
No, it's not.
Um,
Doesn't
but
she have like a thing with the only thing that I shouldn't say this is the only thing that stands out, but didn't she have like a thing with like chic boutique shoes in the book?
she has her lucky Louis Vuittons.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
that she
Yes.
wears because she's short. I'm short, so one of my characters is short. It just is what happens. And so she has like these like 4-inch Louis Vuitton shoes that she calls her lucky Louis, and she wears them everywhere.
Which is
And
so funny because
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like Amish and Louis Vuitton. It's like the perfect dichotomy.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah. She shows up. She shows up to this house that she's going to be staying at for like 6 weeks in Louis Vuittons, and my hero is just kind of like, what do you like? How can you even walk in those?
Oh, fun. I love it. I love it. And I love that it's also set in Montana because you don't
Mhm,
usually think of Montana being Amish country.
mhm. Yeah, so there is actually an Amish community in um, West Kootenai. It's like this itty bitty dot, like on the Canadian border. Um, so the lake it's in the book, and it's really there. Like the other side of the lake is Canada. So
Okay.
I mean, it's like right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So tell me, like, what was your favorite part about writing the book or research that you did? I mean, sky's the limit,
Mm.
putting you on the spot.
Yes. You're gonna laugh. I really liked having finished.
Every writer's favorite part.
And it's not that I didn't like the book. It was like this was a little bit of a challenge, only because I was writing in a genre, not only Amish fiction, but adult. So this is my first adult book that I've actually written. And I don't know, it was probably maybe a week or two before my deadline. And I just had a complete break.
Mm.
And my husband was just like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm going to jail." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I'm going to be in breach of contract because I'm not going to finish this book." And he's like, "Okay." He's always my rock, and he's always like my voice of reason. And he's like, "First of all, Trisha and Susie are not going to let you turn in a bad book. They will work through it." Like, and I was like, "No, it's awful. I'm just hopeless." Oh, but he talked me off that cliff, and I did finish, and I did turn it in, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
So
So
he talked you off the golden cliff so that you could
he
finish writing
did.
the golden
He
cliff.
did. He did. He really did.
There is something to be said about finishing a book though, because whether it's Amish or whether it's mystery or YA or whatever genre you're
Mhm.
writing, there's all these pieces that have to come together, and you can feel really strong while you're writing it, if you're lucky. And then that last push is where you
Mhm.
have to tie up all the ends, and you're like, shoot, this is the worst book. It's career ending,
Mhm.
and I liked your phrase, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
was convinced.
Oh, that's hilarious. So in your story, in your story, there is obviously some struggle with identity and personal value. What's your heroine's name again? I can't remember.
Lila.
Lila, thank you. Lila
Mm-hmm.
is a social media influencer. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if anybody's familiar with social media, TikTok, etc., you're pretty much in the spotlight 24/7 and you're walking
Mm-hmm.
around with your phone on selfie mode. So I'm interested to hear how you address the concept of being ever so popular and feeling like your worth is wrapped up in other people's opinions of you, and then suddenly being thrust into a community where it's the complete opposite. Like it's none of that.
Yeah. So Lila has been on social media for quite some time. She got her big break when she was younger, and she's just always been there. She kind of has this whole mindset of like her followers are her family,
Mhm.
and that's who's there for her. And when she has this mishap and she says something that she shouldn't say and she starts becoming canceled,
Right.
it's kind of like a whole wait a second, like I don't understand what's going on here. And so when her agent and her publicist decide, okay, she needs a break, let's
Hmm.
send her somewhere. They send her off to this Amish community. She doesn't know she's going to Amish community. But then she just realized how wrong she was of what is on your screen that's not real, and it can be taken away in an instant.
Hmm.
Um, while riding on the Golden Cliffs, I actually read a book called Digital Minimalism, and by Cal Newport, I think. Anyway, great book. But he talks about like if you leave for like 6 weeks, nobody will realize that you're gone. And that's just kind of like
Mm.
one of those things where she kind of in the book, she kind of was like, I just want to peek. I want to see if what people are saying, or if people
Right.
are still around, or if they're wondering where I'm at, because she basically drops off the face of the planet. Um, and it's just
Hmm.
that whole idea of don't miss the world that you're living because you're so wrapped up in
Mm.
online stuff.
Yeah, that's true too, because I was watching a clip from the Tom Hanks movie, which I actually want to see. I think it's called A Man Called Otto.
Yeah.
That just recently came
Over.
out.
Yeah.
Or something. It's something to that effect. I'm great with titles, as you can tell.
Mm.
I'm fabulous with titles. But anyways, I'm watching this clip and he's standing with a bunch of people waiting for a train basically to come, and I'm not even entirely sure what happens in the clip, but this old man falls onto the train tracks, and the first thing everybody does is pull out their cell phones
Hmm.
to start recording this mishap. Like somebody else is going to jump to the rescue, therefore let me get my phone so I can record it, get likes and get posts and things like that. And his Tom Hanks character is just like, I think he swears or something, but he's like, you basically, you've got to be kidding me, like for real. And so he jumps down and gets the guy. And then when he finally gets off the train tracks, everybody's like, oh, you're a hero. And what were you thinking when you dropped? And like they're interviewing, like they're all journalists. And I was just like, it was a really poignant 30-second clip of this movie that really encapsulated the missed priorities that we have
Yeah.
currently in culture.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. That was not a question at all. That was just an observation.
It was a good observation, though.
Here, let me ask you all the observations. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
But no, it's funny too, because I was with my family last year on vacation, and I went a whole afternoon where I was just like, you know what? My family's here, so my husband's not going to try and call me. So I'm just leaving my phone in the glove compartment. And we went and we're seeing landmarks and all these things. My daughter's like, Mom, where's your phone? You're not taking pictures. And I'm like, I'm taking pictures with my heart.
Hmm.
And it was such a meaningful day. And I have so many pictures stored in the hard drive of my brain.
Yeah. It's great. And I bet you just felt so much better after even being unplugged for just that little time.
It was because my phone wasn't dinging with lots of messages from people like
Hmm.
you going, hey, when you get home, can you do this and this and
Hmm.
this? So what did you find out about the Amish community then? because it's a really interesting community. And as somebody who's
Mhm.
not immersed in it for a writing career, like
Mhm.
like some authors, what did you find out that you weren't expecting, or was it pretty much what you thought?
Um, I think I probably, I mean, through writing it and then just hearing from other Amish people, they're just like other people. I mean, they're not so different. I mean, yes, they don't, jump in their car and, go somewhere or just jump online to look for an answer or whatnot. But I mean, there's a beauty in that, right?
Right.
There's a beauty in kind of a slower lifestyle and everybody always um coming together to help each other. Um, but I think that's probably one things that I really loved is it's like they're not so much different from you and I. They just dress maybe a little bit different
Hmm.
and um just go a little slower with life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. I have visited Amish community before, and you do have this feeling of going back into time because of the lack
Hmm.
of technology and connection to the outside world. But yet their struggles and such are all the same.
Yeah, exactly.
So so your character Lila is kind of struggling to find her value. Have you ever, I don't know if I want to say, been in that situation where you've been trying to figure out what your value is, or how do you reconcile that with faith as you go through the story and looking at it in light of how God views us as individuals?
Yeah, I think one thing that Lila comes to realize in within being in the Amish community and then um the Milners, that's the family that she stays with, and Mara is the mother, and she has some heart to heart conversations with the mom, and it's kind of like because Lila does not have all the conveniences that she has, so she's not putting on a face of makeup every day. Her hair is
Mm,
not like perfectly in place every single day like she was used to because she's always constantly on, right? She kind of started to struggle with the whole I'm not worth anything. And Mara really spoke into her of like, no, 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 you are a child of God. He loves you just the
mm,
way you are. You don't have to put this mask on
right.
and become somebody different. Like he already sees you and he already loves you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you think about God in terms of social media. It's not like
Mhm.
you're having to put on a performance for him to press the like button or the heart
Right,
or
right.
reshare your reel. Hey, God reshared my reel today on Instagram. This is great. He actually likes me.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you, um, as a side of writing, you also do social media and
Mhm.
you work in publicity and marketing and all sorts of stuff as an assistant to a lot of people. What have you found have been the best tips and tricks to living immersed in that world, but then also walking away from it at the end of the day?
I really hate to use this word, but it's all about boundaries.
Mm,
If you really just set your boundaries, like a lot of times for my own social media, I'm constantly doing client social media, but for my own social media, because everybody wants to make sure that you keep your platform up and whatnot. I try to do stuff in the morning and then really I try not to pick it up again until I'm
mhm,
finished with work. Um, as far as work goes, I because I also work from my home, it
mhm.
makes it really hard to like cut off like
Yeah.
where work ends and life begins, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, so I've just had to really put my foot down of like, okay, 5 o'clock, I'm walking away. I mean, there's always going to be something else more to do. Um, and so at 5 o'clock, I generally try to close down or be in a place that I can like close down quickly. So I'm not working all night long. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's off days where it's 8 p.m. and I'm still working, but or the weekends. I
Right.
try really hard not to work the weekends.
That's probably healthy.
Hmm.
Step away for a while. Or as one client said, don't stress on my behalf. I'm like, okay, gee, thanks.
Somebody has to. It
Nobody
might
needs
as well
to.
be me.
I'm hiring you so that you stress out on my behalf and I don't have to. It's
There
kind of
you
what it
go.
is.
There you go. Hey.
That's funny. Well, okay, so your book is called On the Golden Cliffs,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
And it's part of the Big Sky Amish novel collection.
Yep.
And it's from Sunrise Publishing. Where can your readers learn out more about you, since we're talking about social media? And I'll work on my grammar while you answer that question.
Well, you can find me on my website, which is christenkrumm.com. Kristen with a C, Krumm with a K. I am on Instagram a lot. That one's my favorite. I love it when I love to interact with readers and followers there. So come say hey. I'll say hey back.
All right. And for those of you who aren't sure about the genre of Amish in Montana, in the Big Sky, I have read the book. It's worth reading. Pick it up. It's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it, especially the Lucky Louie's and all the other little fun pieces that Kristen puts in to make it an interesting, fun book. So thanks for being on today, Kristen.
Thanks for having me. This has been really fun.